Good morning on my YouTubers, on my blue collar workers. I just want to make a little video today. I seen I had a couple people comment and they were kind of curious about pipe fitting, about um what exactly it is that we do, how it works, um welding, how the welding works. So basically, when you get into the program, like when I came in, I was already a certified welder. I had welding certs, AWS and ASME. Some of you guys that don't know, usually you get them on a job, and then that certification is only really good for that job. You got to take a retest and get certified for whatever process you're doing at a different job. It's only good for that one job site, but it always looks good on an application to be able to have weld certs, so that they know that you have the ability to pass a weld test. So when I got into the pipe fitters, I was just thinking, like, I'm a welder, I'm gonna go get in a welding union. So I thought that's all pipe fitters did was welding. Well, the apprenticeship, I learned real quick, and when I started working, I learned real quick that there's a lot of stuff we do that's not welding. So we brazing copper, sweating copper, um, threading pipe. There's a lot of stuff that we do is threaded pipe. We do some PVC pipe, some aquatherm and nylon, which are a plastic piping system. We also do a lot of welding, but there's other stuff too, like obviously I've just turned third year apprentice. I ain't even got my first third year check yet. I should get it tomorrow. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it because we're doing 10, so it should be pretty good. But yeah, I've only worked on a couple sites, so a lot of times up here there's a lot of school jobs, and that's really good for an apprentice to learn, because they got pretty much everything in the system in the school. So a lot of times in the school you'd be demoing an old system and then you'd be putting in a new system, so it kind of gives you a good overview of what a heating and cooling system consists of, or the different types. So there's steam, there's hot water, there's a lot of different types. But we also do different stuff, like there's clean room work where they're doing making like I don't know what it is. I ain't worked in the clean room, so I haven't really been. I just heard some other people that have in my class. So they'll have like piping for like cooling down the electrical systems and stuff like that, for like, say, Google or something, or like where they keep all their computers and they got to keep it cool, so they'll have it all piped to cool that system, chill that system. So that's a whole different environment I haven't really worked on. I've been mostly hot water systems, steam systems. um, I've worked at the University of Minnesota on some steam systems there in a new building they had built, and now I'm out at Mystic Lake. So this is pretty much a huge heating and cooling system. So we go into a lot of stuff with layout, because you got to know how to lay out your piping. You got to get into blueprint reading so you can understand where the pipes are going to go. Everything's not welded. Sometimes there's things that are bolted up with flanges. Sometimes there's things that it'll be welded and then it'll go into copper, and then you got to go sweating, or it could be goes into threading, and you got to put a fitting on there that you could thread on. OLEDs thread OLEDs that you gotta thread in, or cutting saddles. There's so many different things that we do. It's not just about welding. Now, I was told as a second year, when I started as a second year, I ran into a third year apprentice. He was taking a weld test at the shop I got to, and he told me straight up, he's like, if you want to make money as an apprentice, like, you gotta weld. And I was already trying to weld anyway, but a lot of times I think our contract says that basically if there's a journeyman welder that's on site that can do the work, they got to do the work first. So a lot of times as an apprentice, you're not going to get to weld as much as you want, but if you show proficiency at it, they got a lot of certs that they take. The UA certs are way more, they're way more piggy than like an AWS or ASME cert. They want to make sure that anytime you go take a weld test, you're gonna be able to pass it. So they're not, their test, the UA tests are harder than the actual shop test. Shop test is going to be way easier. You get to a UA cert and they're looking you out on any little thing, any little defect. If you take too long, like, it's really strict on their certs, because they want to make sure that they send somebody out to do a welding job that there's not going to be no issues, that you're going out and that you're representing the union as a really good welder. So there's that. Now me, I had been welding. I did a lot of extra time going into a training center, because obviously I'd welded a lot, but not really as much on pipe. And pipe is kind of a different game, especially when it comes to stick welding, Or when it came to TIG welding, I was a good TIG welder, but I hadn't really TIG welded on pipe, and I hadn't really TIG welded scratch start. A lot of job sites, that's what it's going to be, scratch start. It's not, you're not going to have a foot pedal, you're not going to have a chair to sit in. So also, I hadn't really walked the cup. I'd always freehanded. Walking the cup is definitely something that they promote. It's faster, makes better looking weld. So I did a lot of training on that on my own time. Like, I was going into the training center like almost every night, just trying to get there. So when I ended up getting laid off from MMC, which is one of the contractors up there, I got laid off from them, which I was glad. I had been trying to get laid off from them. I wasn't really a fan of that shop. There's an opportunity to come to the contractor I'm with now, Corvell, and there's a welding job. So they had asked a couple other people in my class if they could pass the test, and nobody wanted to take it. So I had got my name in the pot, and when they called me up, I went and took a 6G stick test. I thought I was going down there for a shop test, a MIG test, and turned out it was a 6G stick test. But luckily I had been practicing that, so I passed the test, so now I'm a welder. I got hired on as a welder. So now if you just get hired on as a fitter or as an apprentice, there's different pay scales. So like right now I just turned third year. Since I got hired on as a welder, I'm getting paid a year advance. So I'm getting paid fourth year pay because I'm on as a welder. So that doesn't mean I'm welding every day, but they can send me to a job site. Like, they got multiple job sites. They can send me to a job site and they know I'm proficient to weld. I'm gonna be cheaper than a Journeyman. So if they need somebody, they got somebody. So that's why the extra pay is there. So now, once you turn out as a Journeyman, because basically the apprenticeship, the whole point of that is to be able to get kind of your hands in a little bit of everything, so that you get experience with everything. They don't want you to just be just a welder, because you're limiting yourself. There's gonna be times when it's slow and there's not a lot of jobs. You need to be able to have other skills to be able to stay employed. Also, the welders, like, to be honest, like, a lot of times welders are in and out. Like, say this job here, there's a lot of welding, but sometimes there's not a lot of welding. Right now we're hooking up rooftop units, and that's almost all threaded pipe, so there's not a lot of welding work to be done. So if they had all welders here, they would start laying people off, because they have other stuff to be done besides just welding. So it's good to have a well-rounded background, know a little bit of everything. So now, as a Journeyman, if you want to travel, that's where a lot of people will really go try to chase that money. Like, they'll chase the ammonia jobs. A lot of time in them ammonia jobs, like, it's just hours. It could be 7 weeks working 6/12s, you know what I mean? And so that's big money right there, because you're getting all that overtime. And there's a lot of people that chase that on the welding side, and that's a good thing to do. You can do that. I'll probably do that a little bit when I turn out as a Journeyman. But for the most part, me, I really want to run work. Like, I like puzzles. Like, I like figuring out how to make things get done the best way possible, the most efficient way. Like, who's good at what, allocating tasks. Like, that's kind of always been my strong suit. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Like, welding, obviously I'm a welder. Like, I weld on the weekends, so I weld whenever there's something that comes up here, but that's not my primary focus. One of the things my welding instructor told me when I was at welding school was, like, you don't want to be under the hood for more than 5 years if you could help it. You want to take your welding and use that to advance to something so that it's a little bit easier, because welding's obviously not great for you. Like, breathing in all that stuff, even though I smoke the vape, so it's like I really don't I really don't think of what I'm breathing in welding is that bad compared to, I've been vaping and smoking most of my life. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. So a lot of times, if you're in the union, say that you get laid off, say that there's a job that ends or whatever, they lay people off. What happens is you go down to the hall, you put your name on a list. When a contractor has a job starting up, they'll call down to the hall to staff it. So they'll call down to the union hall, hey, I need this many welders, I need this many fitters, whatever, so what do you got? They'll come off that list and they'll pick and choose. Here, psh, psh, psh. They'll start sending them out. Usually it goes by first come, first serve, but then there's specialty times too, where they might need somebody that has experience doing this or doing that, and so they might jump down the list to get somebody that has the experience that the contractor's looking for. So that's how they keep these jobs staffed up. So you never have to go look for a job. Like, the union is going to find you a job. If you're on the list for a while and you ain't working, collecting unemployment, you can always call down to the hall and try to find other jobs. Or that's where a lot of people too, that's where the traveling comes in handy, because say if there's no jobs up here in Minnesota, maybe there's a job somewhere else. And Minnesota, we're lucky. We have one of the highest we're one of the highest licensed unions up here. Like, we carry 5 licensed state and city, gas and oil, a couple steam licenses. We carry a lot of licenses, so we go to other states. That's always well received in other states. So that's kind of how it works. So I mean, if you want to be a welder, there's that opportunity. You can be a welder. But I'm tell you this, I work on the weekends welding all weekend, 212s, and it's like, man, I'd be bored. By the end of the day, I'm like, I'm over it. I'm ready to do something else. Pipe fitting is a little bit different, because even when you're welding, like, you're gonna be welding in a lot of weird positions, a lot of weird places, so it's always interesting. But there's a lot of other stuff that comes into it too, as far as like knowing how the system runs, knowing where you need to have your all your takeoffs and everything fit to, because you got to fit in certain spots. You got to have vents, and you got to have drains. You got to have, everything has to be certain lengths of pipe between control units. Like, there has to be certain things that are in the code that you have to have. So it's not just, I'm gonna go burn some rod. Like, it's a lot more than that. Maybe it's different in some places, like pipelines or something. Maybe you just run welds all day. Up here in Minnesota, it's a lot more heating and cooling, HVAC systems. So there's a lot to it besides just welding. So hopefully that gives y'all a little bit of insight on pipe fitting and what it is. Definitely a great trade. Like, I love coming to work every day. So hopefully that helps somebody. Hopefully you guys see that, and hopefully I see some of y'all on the work field.